Hello, my name's Niranjan, the host of Master of Your Crafts podcast. Learning from leaders who are continuously inspired, passionate, and driven to align with their soul purpose, sharing their gifts to bring healing to others. The music is composed by Rebecca Everett. Today's episode number 28, where we'll talk to Luke, also known as Luke Mind Power, an Australian social media influencer, motivational speaker, personal development coach, and comedian. He's the host of Luke's Mind Power talk show, distributed as a podcast, where you'll learn and hear stories from successful people around the world, where you can become inspired, motivated, and have fun living life. So hello and welcome to Luke. How are you, Luke?
I'm excellent. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being available. I know you're a busy man doing lots of different things on your radar, from public speaking to your own podcast and YouTubing, and really supporting individuals on their journey of what they do and how they navigate and move forward in life. So with that, I imagine that's been a journey in itself for you in supporting others on their journey. What do you believe about yourself, and do you feel it defines who you are in what you deliver?
Yeah, thanks. A great question. And again, the whole belief in yourself, for you to really own your truth and own the things that you're projecting and the things that you're preaching and the message that you're putting out there. It does take some time. I know it's very easy. Some people can present themselves through video or different modalities like different social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and go live and stuff like that. But really, they haven't really gone through enough experience to have enough credibility to stand in that power and to actually show up to the world. And even for myself, but I give people credit for actually trying, but I know from my own experience that there's a process that you have to go through, an evolution that you have to go through in order for you to get to a really powerful place where you've built up enough trust and credibility in the marketplace for people to look at you and go, you know what, I've been watching him and I believe in what he says, because he doesn't just preach, he practices what he preaches, So it's taken a while for me to get to a place of content and strength and confidence to be able to sit here with you and speak honestly, truthfully, authentically, and know that what I'm saying is viable for people to connect with, because again, and you know what, it's such a vast, world and environment that we live in and marketplace that not everybody's going to connect with my story. Not everybody's going to connect with my energy. And that brings me to the point that everybody is on a different vibration. Everybody's on a different level of awareness, a level of perception. So if I'm speaking, maybe 10 people that are listening, only 3 people are going to feel it. And the other 7 are going to go, yeah, I don't get what he's saying. And that's you can't always connect but that's the whole idea, that we're all different and you have to be able to show up in order for you to actually connect with anyone, so there's a lot of truth that comes out of my journey and what I've gone through, and I've had to grow into this person to be able to have that confidence to stay consistent and continue to show up, because it's very easy to give up in this social media environment and space.
Yeah, it's a bit of a whirlwind, the social media game in itself, that you can be lost in it real quick. And I guess even just put aside real quickly in comparison to other people, depending on what they're doing and how they are presenting themselves. So you had also shared that it takes time to build the trust and credibility. And with you being on so many different platforms and building content and walking other people through their journey too, what was that journey like for you? And how long did that take you? I know we're all growing and evolving as we go every single day too. Teachers are still students at the end of the day. I'm a firm believer. But what was your journey like to now be in a comfortable space and confident space where you can truly support others on their journey?
Yeah, look, it's been a long journey. I like to say that I know a lot. I talk about, over the last 3 years, I've been in a relationship with myself. It was about 3 years ago that, I had a spiritual awakening, or I just had an awakening, or I just woke up to myself and said, hey, the things that you've been doing in the last 10 years or whatever are not serving your future. But I'd like to maybe reframe that and say that, hey, you know what? I've been struggling and I've been trying to break through this paradigm of toxic habits or lack of self confidence and awareness for a long time, since I was a kid, you know?
Mhm.
And a lot of it, when I look back now, and this goes for everybody, a lot of the reasoning as to why you are the way that you are, especially if you're not happy with your life or where you are in the place right now, is not your fault. You
That's
know,
right.
we don't have a choice when we are brought into this world. We come out of our mum and we are, um, brought up in a certain culture, in a certain religion, in a certain way, in a certain form of beliefs. You know, all of that, and those experiences that we go through, going to school and the people around us and what we see on TV, and just the whole experience of life itself
Mhm.
has such a major impact on us. And most of us are not aware of it. And most of us actually just accept it for what it is. Right. And so for me, it was about realizing that I am not what my parents want me to be. I'm not what my friends want me to be. I'm not what my
Mhm.
sisters expect me to be. I need to be me, what I believe I am. And the person that I've become was not the person who I was 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. I'm completely so far away from that person, simply because I chose to say, you know what, I'm going to reparent myself. I'm going to peel off all the layers and all the things that conditioned me and programmed me to be a certain way that I believed was not my truth.
Mhm.
You know, who were you exactly when you were born?
Right.
Your pure consciousness,
That's right.
your blank slate, right? But so many of us are so far disconnected from our spirit, from our own energy, from our own heart,
Mhm.
that it becomes such an unconscious reality of experiences that we have formed and habits and conditioning through our life, that because we don't have that love within ourselves to do what's right for us, to stand up for our truth, to give ourselves permission to be our own true selves, not to be validated externally, not to be, gratified externally, but to actually own your truth
Mhm.
and say to your dad or your mom, hey, you know what? The way you raised me, I'm grateful that you gave me a house and a bed to sleep in, but what you believe in is not what I believe in.
Mhm.
And that doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't feel right to me in my heart.
Right.
And I think to go against your family, your friends, and the people that you love is probably one of the hardest things to do, because of judgment and because you feel like you're going to let people down,
Yeah.
you know? when you get to an age of 25 or so, even for men and for women, there becomes this pressure all of a sudden to get married and to hurry up, I know more so for women, obviously, because you guys have to have children and stuff like that. It's better to have kids when you're younger, but you feel this pressure, and it's a cultural thing as well, hurry up, you're getting old. And as soon as you start to feel that, you're losing control. You're losing control of your life because you're feeling this weight all of a sudden coming from all these different directions.
Right.
So, it's really about, taking that time to form and build a relationship with yourself, which is so hard for us to do in today's society because we're not taught to do that.
Yeah.
We are not taught to have a relationship with ourselves, to love ourselves, to finish school. I know that there are people that do it, but I don't think it's intentional enough in terms of personal development. It's about, I'm going to finish school and I'm going to have a gap year, so I'm going to travel to Europe and go get drunk and go to bars and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But to have a year or 2 years off after you finish school so that you can actually find out who it is that you really are without all of the influences and things that are being thrown at you from your friends and your family. To give yourself that time to get away. Yeah. And that's the hardest thing. You can't I'm saying this because this is what I did to get to where I am now. Yeah. And I had it, there's something within me that was pulling me away, and in 2019, it was a big year for me of self-discovery. It was about leaving Australia. It was about living in Chicago for 3 months because that was the place where I could get away to. And I had a cousin there, and I reached out and I said, hey, I know I saw you a week ago. I was there for 3 days just to say hello. Never met you in my life, but you're my dad's cousin's daughter. And then coming back to Australia after I'd been in a couple of conferences in LA, and I'm like, hey, it's Luke. Do you think it would be okay if I could come back and stay with you, like in a 3 weeks time, and stay for three months? And she's like, yeah, sure. And there was this pull within me that did not want to be with my family. I didn't want to be in Australia. I wanted to get out because I could feel the evolution of my new version of myself struggling to connect with the environment that I've been so used to for so long, the people that I'm close to, because I could feel that I'm no longer as connected to them anymore because I'm not like them. And that's the challenge that we go through because we're so used to our friends that we've known for so long. We get used to their energy, right? Their way of thinking, the things that they do. And then for you to pull away, it's really challenging. Yeah. But I could just feel it within myself that I had to get away. I had to let go of everything that I knew in order for me to grow. And so 2019 was a massive year. And then at the end of that, in November, I was off to China to live in the Shaolin Temple because, again, I felt something that needed to happen for me and I had to leave. And so I went and lived in the Shaolin Temple in China for 3 months again, and that was a part of self-discovery. So there's a lot of time spent alone with myself, which is the biggest, and I think one thing that most people are very afraid of doing and being is not being in a relationship because they don't feel like they're good. There's something wrong with them. If you're not in a relationship, there's something wrong. You're afraid. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I've gone through and how I'm, how I am the way that I am.
It's very courageous for you to step out and maybe have that courageous conversation with your family to say, I need to get away. I need the separation. I need something different. I need a different environment. I need to figure this out. It's calling me so deeply and so loudly that I got to listen. So I imagine that conversation was challenging, but was there a pivotal piece, a pivotal time during that pull push, I want to say, of energy of you still being connected with your family and you trying to figure out who you are and what is it you look like. Was there one thing that you can recall where it was that was the moment that just triggered everything else like a domino effect?
There is a defining moment, but when I think about it in over the last 15 years, for example, there's many moments that lead up to that one moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not just, if I can think of an epiphany or
Yeah.
that situation, then yeah, I keep talking about it because somehow it just happened like that.
Hmm.
Grandmother passing away, going to Europe with my dad to the funeral, seeing him weep for the first time in my life, and then coming back. And at the time I was still addicted to cocaine, and I was still, very active in the
Okay.
drug and alcohol world. And yeah, coming back to Australia after that, and just something hit me, and I was just like, you talk a lot about success and wanting success, and you know, being successful with, I mean, being on drugs makes you talk a lot, especially on cocaine.
Hmm.
And I would have, just countless hours of conversations with friends and stuff like that about different things, especially life and how we're going to be successful and stuff, but it was always talk. There was no
Hmm.
action.
Right.
I mean, I was working and stuff and saving money, but it was just always succumbing to the temptation of the drug. But these moments in my life, there was a moment where a friend of mine reached out and said, "Hey man, I was talking to my other friend, and we were just wondering, like, are you okay?
Mm.
Because like you've been doing this a lot, like, and we just want to make sure that you're all right."
Mm.
And I was fine, but I was very in denial that
Right.
I wasn't abusing the drugs, and that um, I was fine. I felt I was fine. I was living, I was doing my thing.
Mm.
But that could have been also a moment that
Yeah.
triggered something in my brain
Yeah.
that slowly started to manifest to that next point of going, hey, you need to change.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, but it
Absolutely.
wasn't like I didn't feel it at the time, but things like that, just a little conversation or a little question or a little heads up from your friend to say, hey, are you okay?
Hmm.
It could have been a trigger,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then, then you go back to all the different relationships that I have with all these different women that just never worked out. And again, it wasn't at any of those moments in those relationships where I stopped and said, um, wow, this is meant to be. This is an epiphany moment. My life's about to change.
Right.
But now when I look back at them, I'm like, every single moment and every single relationship and heartbreak that
Yeah.
I had to go through was a part of it,
Yeah.
but I just wasn't aware of it.
Right.
Right. And so again, and that's why when you think about that and you go back to the understanding of hindsight and to the notion of everything happens for a reason,
Hmm. Hmm.
it really allows you to be in the present moment during a time of distress or um, adversity or heartbreak or some sort of trauma or death. And even though it's so hurtful in the moment, you're able to say, there's a reason why this is happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not going to make sense now,
No.
but in time you'll see that it's for a reason and it's going to make sense. So stay strong and keep going.
You're right by saying it typically isn't one big epiphany moment, one big aha. It's a small little nudges that get louder and louder in life that bring us forward to that one moment where we're like, where we look back and reflect and connect all those dots. And then you have a greater understanding that there is a greater purpose, there is a greater reason why all those things happen. And that potentially propels you to move forward in a more purposeful, in a more heart centered, focused way, in a direction that maybe dismantles all the social stigmas and belief systems that are projected and betrayed on us, right? Um, but I find it interesting because with conversations with other people, there's often one or two experiences that stick in the mind, as more anchor points, if you will, of even as an element of reflection. They become anchor points of, it was that conversation, it was because my friend asked and he said, "Are you okay?" That was a moment that made me trigger that. So I always intrigued by the the reflection, the mental reflection that takes place, and where does it take the person to assess what that pattern and behavior comes from. So be it from the funeral that you had to go for your grandmother, or be it, you could have probably told me an example when you was a small child, like 5, 6 years old or something. But for some reason, those examples stuck with you. So my translation is, those were perhaps the pivotal pieces that stick out for you more of your breaking point, if you will, to move forward and now go, this is what it's all about. And I bring this up more so because I'm sure, especially now, there are more and more people out there who are challenged with what is going on, and they just accept it as an element of life. This is life. These are the cards that I've been dealt. Grandma was going to die, and somebody was going to lose their job, or addictions were going to take place. So that's part of life.
Mm.
But it's really not, right? As we have found out, I found out, you found out, and many, many others too, which is a real blessing, I would consider it. Um, so, with that, what do you feel are some of the attributes that you have learned, garnered, finessed, and maybe even mastered as some of your skill sets that connects you to your purpose in what perhaps you would define as your purpose now, in the empowerment and mindset shift movement that we're in?
Yeah, and you know what? It's a great question for me to ponder on, because again, I feel like over the last 3 years of this journey in terms of self-investment and personal development, self-awareness, it's evolved continuously. It hasn't always been the same thing. You know, I remember when I first started, the big impact and big shift for me was when I was doing a course through the Mind Valley platform, and it was called Speak and Inspire, and it was about learning how to talk, learning how to speak in front of an audience. That was one of my fears. So it's amazing to be a 27-year-old, 28-year-old, 29-year-old, 30-year-old, working for a government department, and you know, you have a opportunity to be in a boardroom with, say, you know, 7 or 8 different other staff members, and be be asked to introduce yourself, and at that kind of age you're still very insecure.
Mm.
You blush and you actually get so anxious and nervous to present and to just deliver a small introduction for maybe 15 or 20 seconds, just to let people know who you are, where you work,
Yeah,
you know, just something very simple.
yeah,
And that's something that, even though I was there and I put myself into those situations, I would still get so nervous at just introducing myself. So I look at that and I think to myself, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are we like that? What happened to me?
Mhm.
Where did that trauma come from? You know, where did that real disconnection from life? Because that's what it is. You're disconnected from the person that you should be,
Right.
you know? Um, and so I look at that as just a big example, because we should not be afraid to share with others who we are, what we do, how many brothers and sisters we have, where we live. We should be presenting ourselves with joy and confidence, because,
Right.
hey, this is my moment to talk for 20 seconds. I'm just going to share with you who I am,
Yes.
right? But there was just so much lack within me, and hence why I turned to anabolic steroids or cocaine or alcohol,
Mhm.
or other drugs, to escape and to fill that void, because I wanted that safety and that confidence, and that notability.
Yeah.
You know, that, hey, you know, I got some good stuff come to my place. Oh yeah, let's go to Luke's house because he's got some really good gear.
Right.
You know, and it makes you feel good because you're noticed, and
Yeah.
you know, people want to be around you. You know, people, we want to feel wanted,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
So you know, that was part of a part of the journey. But as you move forward and you continue to really believe in who you are, there are certain things that you attain along the way.
Mhm.
And one of them, I have to say, is confidence. And I think that confidence is something that you can't achieve in 1 week or a month or 2 months, but there's a lot of work that needs to go into developing self-confidence, and um, really standing strong in your power. You know, like 6 months, 7 months ago, I thought I was confident. I thought I knew who I was. I thought that I was ready for the world,
Right.
but I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I really wasn't. But I'd done so much work on myself
Yeah.
that I really thought I was. But yet the universe took me through something else that was depressive and anxious, and stressful, and deceitful, and challenging, and
Mm.
disappointing, emotionally, financially, mentally. It was psychologically hard.
Mhm.
And what I went through with trying to build a platform and a business with someone who I thought had a lot of credibility, respect, and success, turned out to not be the case.
Mhm.
And so there I was, um, in this relationship that I really trusted. And it was, and I feel now that I can strongly say, because this is a whole evolution, as I mentioned,
Mhm.
that was kind of like, for me, the icing on the cake. In order for me to attain self-confidence, in order for me to come back to me fully and take full control of myself, so that I could really show up real, raw, vulnerable,
Yeah.
and be transparent as much as I can, so that when people hear me speak, they don't just hear me, they feel me.
Mhm.
So, you know, there's a lot of different aspects to personal growth, and to, you know, really building oneself. It's not
Yeah.
just to say it's self-confidence, because, you know, you talk about self-awareness, you talk about being aware of your thoughts, you talk about loving yourself. You talk about being kind to yourself. You talk about, being healthy, having the right mindset, surrounding yourself with the right people. There's just so much to it.
Yeah.
But your awareness to all of it, there's a lot of investment that you have to make and there's so much information out there. There's so many podcasts, there's so much content on YouTube, there's so many motivational speakers.
Yes.
And it's up to you to make that investment enough to be able to attain enough that you can really get a grasp of, I connect with this. Yes, I'll take a bit of that. Oh yeah, I listened to Lewis Howes. Oh, I saw Gary V. Tony Robbins was good yesterday. Les Brown was all right. Oh, Tom Billy is good. I'll take that. And there's so many speakers and people that are, on these higher platforms, spreading this awareness and knowledge and wisdom. But not everything's going to connect with you, and you've got to pick off each tree different apples and different fruits so that you can add to your garden and grow, so
Absolutely.
there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's a journey in itself, especially when you look online and in the self-development mix. There's such a big mix of experiences, perspectives even. So ultimately, yes, they're all talking about the same thing of shifting your mindset, observing yourself, talking about self-love, but it's ultimately connecting on a deeper level. Because I think connecting on a mental level is one thing, but connecting on an energetic level through your heart is a whole different ballgame. And I think it's very often overlooked when you look at some of the folks out there in what they're doing, and even through that cherry picking process of selecting content. But the integration of the content is where the real magic begins. I mean, even with your own journey from what you've shared, going to Chicago, going to LA, and then going to China. So I would imagine in all elements of your journey, there's knowledge that happens which sits in the brain, but there has to be an element of integration where it steps into your heart, where you actually embody and actually feel it. I know you talked earlier about vibration and frequency and being mindful of your energy and who you are letting into your field and who you are not letting in, and what are the words that you're using and the frequency around those words. I think all of those are part of that bigger journey and part of that bigger perspective of mindset. What's I guess now called mindset shift, or changing your perspective, or owning your life. But I totally agree with what you're saying. It's a journey in itself for you to finding the right person who's going to resonate with you, and give yourself permission to sit back and go, what does that mean? That pull push element of, is it right? Is it wrong? Am I allowed? Am I not allowed? Is it acceptable for me to ask for a different person's perspective other than my elders?
Absolutely. There's it's a challenge, and it's part of the, I remember early on, and I was at conferences and different places for networking and stuff like that, and you're so intrigued by this whole process of awakening and spiritual awakening and self-discovery and personal growth, that you want to listen to everyone. Yes. And you feel like everyone is right and everybody's journey is like yours, and that what everybody's saying is making sense, and that if they're doing that, then you must do that, and you're going to reach your level of success or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve.
Right.
But eventually, I remember that there was one specific point where I realized, and I was like, they're all good, but they're not all good for you.
That's right. That's right.
Um, but again, that's part of the self-discovery process, and that's part of you taking action
Yeah.
and realizing that, hey, you know what, I've been doing this for a week, but this just doesn't vibe with me. It's okay. I can let this go and let's start something different. I know that a lot of people out there who invest in personal development courses or programs or whatever, they dabble in
Many.
6 different things because they start one thing and they're like, and then they see something else, like, oh my God, that looks really good. Let's do that. And then then they see something else. And hey, I've done it.
Yes.
I've done it. I bought this course, then I bought that course, then I found Speaking Inspire. And I thought, oh my God, I've got 3 courses now. How am I supposed to do all of them? And then I kept doing the speaking one, and I'm like, the other ones I got to let go because they're not connecting with me.
Right.
And a lot of people do that, struggle with it. And I did the same thing last year. I purchased Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins' Knowledge Broker Blueprint course. And I started doing that. And after about 2 weeks, I started to try and form my own business in Sydney because I found this idea, and it just sparked a new idea and made me think. And I was like, okay, let's focus on that. So again, I lost traction and I lost myself going in a different direction. Right. And then from there, I found myself starting a new project with someone else. Right. Because I felt like I needed to let that go. That wasn't working. So it's very easy for you to start something and be led completely in another direction. But I think the purpose and the bigger picture is the fact that you're taking action. Yes. So there's no right or wrong, but if you're sitting in that one spot and you ain't going forward or left or right or any direction other than backwards, then you're not doing anything. You're just sitting there. So my advice is, even if you're dabbling, keep dabbling.
Keep going. Exactly. Yeah, that's still a step forward. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No decision is a decision in itself, right?
That's right.
So I guess really from another perspective, what is your intentions with your craft?
You know, it's changed again over the time that I've been speaking and showing up. My intentions have changed. You know, I first presented myself as a motivational speaker or a positive therapist. I was just like, I'm different. I'm not like other people. I'm not a life coach. You know, like I just never felt really connected with all of those different names. Because people give themselves names: motivational speaker, I'm a life coach, I'm an executive coach, I'm this, I'm that. Yep. And I just never felt the connection with that. There was something more. And that's just me being brutally honest, you know, because I know people take on these names and forms of noticeable credibility, in a sense where if you say you're a life coach, then someone knows that's what you do and you help people set themselves up for success, you know. But over the last 3 years, you know, I'm still going through a process of really honing in on exactly the I guess the way that you, or what you would call me, you know. It's kind of hard still to pinpoint what I'm doing. But the biggest thing that I know is something that I've been able to experience recently on my journey on a platform that I doubted for a long time and that I didn't feel a connection with for quite some time, which has been around for a few years now. And that is TikTok.
Yep.
Because when I first heard about it, I thought it was just for kids and it was dancing, and I was like, oh, whatever, you know.
Right.
I didn't vibe with it. And then given my experience of what I went through over the last 7 months with this particular individual and me trying to build my brand and bring out my coaching business and all that kind of stuff, it brought me back to being inspired by a friend of mine who has been growing and dancing on TikTok. And he just reached out to me and he just said, man, there's this really good song and it's just getting so much attention. And if you dance to it, people are going to see you and you'll get a bit of a following. So I just thought, okay. And at the time I was at a point as well where I was like, you know what, I'm missing is I should be consistent on TikTok with my speaking and my content, and I haven't been. And if you're not willing to put in the work, you're never going to grow, even if you're not getting much traction, right? Because it just takes time. You can't expect to go on a platform, a new platform as well, and you only got 600 followers, and all of a sudden you're going to become famous or you're going to become noticed. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to just be consistent. I'm going to post 5 things a day, and I'm going to stay consistent, and I'm going to just show up. You know, it's like what you put in, you get out. The universe is watching, and the more you give, the more you will receive eventually. But you have to be willing to push through that threshold, you know, push through the barrier, push through the resistance, right? And it's the same thing as TikTok. TikTok is like the universe. TikTok, I made this analogy with my friend, and I said, TikTok is watching you. It's watching the effort that you put in. And if you're not putting in enough effort, it ain't going to reward you. Right? So after I did that dance, within about half an hour, I had 14,000 views. And I was like, whoa. Then I had 24,000. And I was like, geez, this is going off. And so there was a bit of motivation there, because I was like, wow, okay, this is great. And so that kind of kicked it off for me. And then I started dancing a lot. And for the rest of December, I was just dancing. And I was posting content, and I was creating these dancing videos where eventually I was writing inspirational messages on the video on the screen, so that people were not just watching me dance, but there was something to engage with. There was something to read. And so doing that has opened my mind to the connection that I was making with this new audience that I had, which then allowed me to be a bit more invested in the app itself. And so I would do as I do, you know, I've been on using the internet for so many years, using social media, and I'm sitting there and I'm just started to scroll and research and look at trends and like, how can you grow? How can you connect with more people? What do you need to do? Right. And so you have to be a bit inquisitive. You have to, you know, put a bit of time and effort into it. You can't just post a video and think that it's just going to be amazing. You know, I know that it works very well for very attractive females that show a little bit of skin. You know, sex does sell, and that's just the reality of it. And you get a lot of attention if you're in a bikini and a thong, right? But the bigger picture of that was that from everything that I've gone through, especially in the last 7 months, where I'd been kicked to the floor and really been on an emotional roller coaster, I finally had myself back. I finally stood up for myself. I finally felt the intuition was that strong within myself that I had to have the courage to let that go, disconnect myself from that project and that relationship, and I finally came back to me. And when I came back to me, then I started to do things that felt connected with me and what was right for me. And so I stumbled upon a couple of posts by this TikTok creator, which was really funny, and it really connected with my energy and my spirit. And I was just like, wow, this is hilarious. I'm going to try this. And so again, it was experimenting, but it was all about taking action and trying different things. And I tried a couple of these different videos with these different types of styles of music, and people loved it. And then that started the journey of me as a comedian. And so now I have over 45,000 people in the last 6 weeks. That's how much my account has grown. Now, and it's just continuing to grow every single day, you know? And so because of my whole journey, all of a sudden now I've come out, I've been inspired by someone else. I'm now showing up as a character that I've created because of these videos. And so I now have another way of connecting with the world with a sense of humor. But this character that I've created, his name is Hans, and he's from Austria, and he just arrived in Australia. You know, his girlfriend 10 years ago got hit by a horse. She died. So he hasn't had a relationship for 10 years. And he's very funny. He's very serious. He doesn't laugh. He wears these really short shorts, and he has these red loafers. And And so this character that I present on TikTok, people are in love with him. They can't get enough of him. People are duetting him all the time, and the account is just constantly growing because people love him. And the message behind him, and why I'm bringing this up, is because there's one thing that you need in order to really present yourself to the world, and that's self-confidence. And this character is all about self-confidence.
Okay.
He's able to walk around the street in these shorts where people are looking at him going, what the hell are you wearing? But he loves it. And his message and philosophy is all about being who you are, being an original, not a copy, not caring about what other people think of you. Right. And the amount of people that are laughing, it's just amazing. And so it's touched me a lot. I'm very humbled by it, by the attention, but the purpose of it is that now not only am I able to show up on my lives on TikTok and be a inspiration to people and speak, but through my comedy, I'm able to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And that is a blessing in itself. And I know that I've got a sense of humor. I've always had a good sense of humor, but I never knew that I had this gift that I could bring out to make people laugh on this platform. Right. And so, but it's only because of self-confidence. You know, because you have to, some of the videos, people can go and go, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that.
Right.
Right. But Hans doesn't care.
Right.
Because he doesn't care what people think of him.
Yes.
But most people laugh, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, but that's, that's a little bit about, more in detail as to how I present myself now, because it's more than just an inspirational speaker. You know, all of a sudden now my character and my personality is coming out where this could lead me to TV.
Right.
This could lead me to the next Borat, the next Mr. Bean, for example, because Hans doesn't talk.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But it's connecting with the world because everybody can understand him because he's not talking.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So Naranjan, if you're not on TikTok and you haven't seen Hans, you need to get on there and check him out because he's hot.
I think I have seen some of his stuff. So you're right. It's pretty funny. It is pretty funny. So I guess in an element, your gift, your journey, your mastery is having people laugh and giving them a message in between. Because we know people are more receptive when they are more comfortable. And when they're more comfortable through a jest, a joke, an imitation, or whatever that may be, they'll receive the information easier.
Again, it's about credibility. You know, you need to show up enough for people to notice you and for people to be able to trust you. You know, and people can feel your vibe, and it's part of your own confidence and development that you have done this enough that you now feel content and strong enough to be able to help someone else.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that's, that I didn't really mention, but in terms of like personal coaching or being available for people to connect with me one-on-one so that I can help them, 100% I do that, because I've been through it. Absolutely. And I see the messages on my TikTok videos. One of them I noticed the other day, and he said, I wish I had your confidence. And so I made a video on my YouTube channel about confidence.
Right.
Because I was inspired by that comment. Because there are people out there that look at your content and think to themselves, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, it's
absolutely,
you're crazy.
Absolutely.
So it's in no point do I sit here with a egoistic mind and think, oh, fuck, I'm the shit, man. I'm so good. Right. But I know my value, I know my worth because I validate myself, and I really own that, and I'm grateful, and it's beautiful that people are connecting with what I'm doing. But I love myself so much in that way that I'm so humble. I am. I just think it's beautiful because the like I mentioned, people are connecting with the character. He doesn't speak. I'm able to now connect with the world, a world audience.
Yes.
Whereas, like, I'm on live, for example, twice a day. That's how much I hustle on TikTok, right? Wow. And people are coming online and they can't speak English. Right? It's even pushing my limits because people are writing to me in their language and I'm repeating it for them so that I make them feel that I see them.
Right.
Especially if it's a language that is written in English letters and I can read it, for example. Right. If it's written in Indian or in Russian or Arabic, for example, obviously I can't read it, but I can say a few Arabic words, and some people come on and they can say a few English. And then if I know that they're from, the Lebanon or a Middle Eastern country, I'll say something in that language so that they feel connected. But there's just that's the thing that I love right now with who I am and what I'm bringing out is that one of my dreams really is to unite the world and to be able to have a world where we're not so divisive and we're not divided, because I grew up very judgmental. I judged people for their way that they looked, the color of their skin, the country they came from, the religion. And so I've let that go now, and I grew up in a strict religious family and I had to let go of that because I would always say to my mum when I first started speaking, I was like, Mum, when I speak with a universal tongue. I speak to the world. I speak about love and about unity and about acceptance. And it's not about division. And for me, religion divides people. And I'm not going to start preaching about religion, but this is what I'm able to do now on my social platform is connect with the world. And it's such a beautiful thing to be live and see a person from Morocco, Indonesia, Africa, South America, the Caribbean, and everybody's in the one place at the same time, all different religions and faiths and beliefs and cultures. And, it's a blessing.
Beautiful. I love that. Coming full circle in the conversation. I know at the beginning of the conversation, we talked about your challenging journey of wanting to be seen, wanting to have that credibility, wanting to be recognized. And to a certain degree, you're doing that now through the joy of laughter. You're being seen, you're bringing people together and building that credibility with all the painful experiences that you've had over the last couple of years, probably even longer than that. But it's the experiences that shape us into who we are, but it's how we deal with them. That's the biggest lesson, right? So
absolutely.
What a wonderful journey and what a beautiful story. Thank you, Luke, for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Listen, there's so much, but I hope that that's inspired someone. I hope that whoever's listening, this is the whole beautiful thing about social media and about podcasts. See what's out there for you because there's so much.
There is.
If you're seeking more in life, whatever it is that you really feel connected to and you believe in, it's possible.
Yeah. If you're open and courageous enough to follow the path and follow the guidance, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again, Luke, for your time and your shares and hopefully be empowered at the same time. So thank you so much, Luke.
Naranjan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Naranjan, and you've been listening to Master of Your Crafts podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and join me next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.